Propane Pete's tiny workshop. I didn't quite finish the Charade in the last video, and there's still a couple of things to do. The main thing is I'm just not happy with the front brakes. Even though I cleaned all the surface rust off the rotors and cleaned up the pads, they were noisy. They passed the roadworthy check okay, no problems on the roller machine, balance between front and rear brakes and retardation. That was all fine, passed with flying colours, they worked perfectly. However, they're still too noisy. So I decided to have the brake rotors machined and fit new pads. And so we're about to do that now. We'll get them back on. These are the machined rotors, nice fresh surface, and a set of new brake pads. So with no further ado, we'll get these on. I'm just using some brake cleaner to clean off the surface of the rotors. They did have a light coating of machine oil on them. And these are the pads. They're RDA pads, and I'm pretty sure they're made in Melbourne. So that's a good thing. We're using an Australian product. Should be more of it. And I'll be using the grease in this little supplied satchel on the moving surfaces. And for the sliders, I'm using my own copper-based grease. So I'm just lubricating those contact surfaces with that special supplied grease, and then I'll put the pads into the anchor plate. And there's the new pads in the anchor plate, and I'll just finish off by lubricating those slider pins with my copper-based grease. It's time to start putting everything back. And of course, starting with the rotors. That nice shiny machine surface looks good. I probably should have done this right at the start, but I was on a budget. And anyway, it wasn't too bad cost-wise. Machining the rotors and some new pads was $141, so not too bad. And here's the anchor plate going back on with the two new pads fitted to it. Okay, the anchor plate is secure. I'm just sliding the caliper over the anchor plate and bolt that on. There's also a couple of little things in the background there, brake hose clamp and a strut bolt to go in, which I won't show, but you've seen this before on video too, so I won't go into too much detail. And just to speed things up a bit, I'm breaking out the power tools for a change. I tend not to use them a lot, and I should use them more actually. So all done, there's the left hand side, all done, ready to have the wheel put back on. And there's the driver's side, same thing, ready for a wheel put on, and the job is done. Left is tighten up the wheel nuts to 100 Newton meters and put the wheel trims on, and the brake job is done. Just a small job to do here. About 8 inches of the rear window seal had deteriorated, so I cut it out and I masked it up, and I'm going to reseal it using a Sally's product, a black flexible sealant. Once this cures, it'll have the same properties and appearance as the original seal. And there's the final result. That'll be as good as gold. Never have any more troubles with that again. I just did a road test, and those brakes are great. No noise whatsoever, and a nice progressive pedal field. So that was well worth the extra $141. Blew the budget, but that was well worth it. The other job was the bonnet. Bit of a flop last time. However, I do have plenty of materials left over from that job to redo it without any extra cost. But we have a problem. The wet season had arrived here with a bang. We've just had 12 inches of rain in 24 hours, and there's a lot more to come. There's a couple of tropical lows forming, and so it looks like we're going to be on cyclone alert in the next couple of days. That's going to pose a bit of a problem. It's currently 35 degrees centigrade here at the moment, and an absolute amazing 96% humidity. I'm sweating like a pig, and any attempt to paint this bonnet in this humidity would just end in, it'd be even worse than it is now. Although it's not too bad, but it wouldn't work, and it's going to be like this for about 2-3 months. That's what happens. So that bonnet job is going to have to be put off for quite some time. The Met Bureau is forecasting a biblical deluge here. Some places in the Gulf country have already been evacuated, and this always happens on my birthday. I'm about to turn 76, and I always seem to get a cyclone for my birthday. Anyway, with the radiator hoses, I just got an update from Spares Box in Melbourne. Those hoses will be coming up by road, the 2,800 kilometres south of here, coming up. However, I heard on the radio just earlier that the Bruce Highway is cut by floodwaters around Ingham somewhere. It's always Ingham. So it's going to be quite some time, I think, before those radiator hoses get here. Anyway, I'm dripping with sweat. It's stinking hot. I'm going to go into the house, turn the aircon on, and we'll continue this conversation there in the cool. See you in a minute. Well, the workshop foreman has given me the rest of the day off, which is very unlike him, I can tell you. So I've come in, I've turned the air conditioning on, I've had a shower, and I've changed, and I've made a nice cup of tea. I'm not doing any more of the car today. It's just starting to rain again now. I'm just going to finalise our cyclone emergency kit that we keep going all the time. Just make sure it's all up to date. Now, with the Charade, you've already seen me sand and paint the bonnet, and you've also seen me working on the cooling system. So doing that all over again is not new content. So keeping that in mind, and also that there is the possibility of a major weather event coming this way. Ooh, that was right on schedule. Quite some distance away though. Just starting to rain. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the rain with the windows closed, aircon on, lav mic. Anyway, where was I? So keeping all that in mind, I've decided that the 1995 Daihatsu Charade project is complete. Car's finished. And it is really. It's just waiting on a couple of radiator hoses from Melbourne, and just looking at the weather map for down the coast, they might come by arc. So who knows when they'll get here. Tomorrow I had planned to do a nice little finishing off drive in the Charade, now that's finished, up to Port Douglas from here. It's only 40 k's from here. It's a magnificent drive. I've been doing it, or we've been doing it for, gosh, decades. And I never get tired of it. But with the heavy rain the other night, there's been a couple of landslips, and it's starting to rain again now. So I don't want to risk getting stuck between landslips for a few hours. So tomorrow morning, we'll just jump in the Charade and drive around town and have a little chat about the future of this little car. So until then, cheers. Well, welcome back. Overnight there's 4 tropical lows have developed right across northern Australia for a couple of thousand kilometres. But the Bureau is saying that the centres are too close to the coast in all 4 cases for them to develop into cyclones. But if they form up, it's just going to be a massive rain depression. And with cyclones, it's actually the flooding that does the damage, not so much the wind. So we'll see what happens over the next few days. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're out in the Charade on this fine, hot, sunny morning, and this little car is just it's just so much fun to drive. It's zippy. It keeps up with the traffic. It handles well. It stops well, and surprisingly, it cruises along effortlessly at 100 kilometres an hour, even more. I'm really surprised. I've really enjoyed getting this little car back on the road. There are some amazing YouTube videos out there of people dragging old cars out of a swamp, cutting down trees, getting them back to the workshop, cutting out rust, fabricating new panels. I was very lucky. I didn't have to do any of that. I have done a little bit of that in the 1960s, but this was more of an extended refresh and refurb. And what helped, of course, was that our friends and their son looked after this car very well over the years. They kept it in. It was kept in a garage, nice dry garage, out of the weather on a concrete floor. They ran the engine every now and again, kept the battery charged, drove it around the property every now and again just to keep things churning, and it's all paid off. Look at this. This little car is now back on the road, safe, reliable, and registered. You really could throw your travel bag in the boot of this car and drive it across the country. You really could. It's just an amazing little car. Wow, we're actually going to pass some cars. Look at this. We're off. Too slow. It's surprising. It's amazing. It's for such a small engine. Well, I had planned to do a trip up to Port Douglas today and video it all, but those landslips up there, I don't want to get stuck. So this is all we can really do. This is a great little car to drive. It's real fun. It easily keeps up with the traffic. It handles well. It stops well. And surprisingly, it cruises effortlessly at 100 kilometres an hour, 105. Found myself doing 110 the other day. It's amazing for such a small engine. And the economy of this thing is amazing. It only uses 3.8 litres per 100 k's. That's 71 miles to the gallon in the old currency. So as a secondary runabout car, or even a daily drive, this car would cost nothing to run. They're just so simple. The only electronic thing in this car really is the radio. It does have a very early type of electronic ignition, but yeah, the car is analog. Anybody can work on it. So we're sort of heading back home. Oh, we're heading in that direction. It's a really hot day. So we'll pop into the aircon and we'll have a chat about the future of this little car. I'm enjoying driving this little car so much that I just love to take it for a drive, but I'm not going to. I've got other things to do, so this will have to suffice. That was the other thing too. The gearbox, the ratios are just really well spaced, and so it really suits this 993cc engine. When they designed this car, they really got everything right. I saw one of these the other day actually, outside Supercheap, covered in red dust and mud. It had a roof rack, there was sleeping bags, there was water containers, and all these stickers of where they were going around Australia. But then thousands of kilometres in a tiny little Daihatsu Charade, and it was the two-door, just like the three-door really, just like this with the little hatch. Amazing. I would have loved to have had a chat with the owners, but I don't know where they got to. Anyway, we're almost home. So, how did it all go in the end? What did it cost? Well, in my first video, episode 1, I estimated the total cost to get this car back on the road would be $3,305. And of course, there was no labour cost in that because I'm a qualified mechanic, and this was just a project car. It's not a profit-making enterprise at all. I won't bore you with the spreadsheet details, but in the end, a few wins, a few losses here. The total cost came out to $3,470.42, which is $165.42 above what I originally estimated. I'm still reasonably okay with that because the current market price for a 1995 Daihatsu Charade 3-cylinder in good condition, no rust, good interior, roadworthy certificate, and roadworthy, I should say registered, is $3,500. So I'm still in that in that box. Should I need to recoup my money? Also, keep in mind that last year, April 2024, that Charade became 30 years old. So it's now officially viewed as a classic car. And there's a growing interest in classic cars in Australia, particularly as electric cars start to come on the road. They're gaining in value. This little Charade will definitely gain value over the next few years. It's almost a small investment. So keeping all that in mind, I should be able to recoup the money I spent on this little car. No profit, of course, as I said. This was not a profit-making enterprise. I ran some numbers for what a commercial workshop would have charged for this. So in this scenario, the car arrives on a trailer at a commercial workshop, 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, and leaves 2 weeks later, 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. What would it all have cost? So just using the current hourly labour rates on a commercial workshop, plus the parts list, that would have come out to the customer, the owner, would have paid, what would he have paid? $5,690. And then with the, I'm just checking here, the towing, the registration, the insurance, etc. So the owner, customer, would have paid $6,920 to do that job, which I've just done in my little workshop. So continuing playing with numbers, a hypothetical situation here. If I theoretically ran my tiny workshop as being a motor mechanic, a qualified motor mechanic, if I ran my tiny workshop as a small part-time business at a significantly reduced labour rate, that entire job, including all the towing, rego, insurance, etc., would have come to $5,310. So significantly less than a commercial workshop. But for those of you who are thinking of restoring an old car, you can see why a full restoration with bodywork, rust, new panels and wiring interior can just cost tens of thousands of dollars. I didn't have to do any of that. So the Charade project is finished, but I'm now faced with a dilemma that I hadn't really thought about when I started this. I don't have anywhere to keep this car anymore. This is a duplex. Our neighbour next door, our carports are together with a little wall between them. I've been keeping our Golf in our neighbour, who's also our friend, in her carport because she doesn't have a car yet. So the Golf's been in her carport, and the Charade's been up on stands next door in my little tiny workshop. But she's been very generous and very patient. But I really have to let her have her carport back very soon. And keeping the Charade out in our far north Queensland tropical weather, even with a car cover on, it's not going to be good for it. It'll deteriorate. So unfortunately, I think I have to find a new owner for the car, someone who is a little bit keen and likes old cars, Daihatsus particularly, and is okay with with paying what I've put out for the car, or close to. This isn't a profit-making enterprise, as I said. I just want to see the car go to somebody who will look after it. Well, that's the end of the Charade series. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed getting this little car back on the road, rescuing a little bit of history. But keep an eye out on this channel. I do have some work scheduled for the Golf and a couple other things. So until then, cheers and thank you for watching.